from Studioloo, and I am back today with another journal walkthrough. This is the second to last of my Fibre and Textile Art Journal series, and this one is basically in a book called The Prize by Irving Wallace. And so this is a fun book. I had a lot of fun making it. I basically went with a more sort of interesting cover that I created myself because the cover of this book wasn't all that interesting, but I did like the graphic on it. So on the front, I have knit this pocket, and this pocket is knit from 100% merino wool that I hand dyed myself. And then I knit this pocket just in a regular garter stitch, and I sewed it to create a separate little pocket hole here, which hopefully you can see on camera if I stand up the book. There we go, tilted a little bit, and you can sort of see that there's a separate little hole right here that this crochet hook goes into. So this would be a great journal if you were a crocheter, or not, but if you were, you could pop a crochet hook in here. This book will come with this crochet hook. You could also put a pencil in there or a pen. And then I also sewed this beautiful piece of this is an applique from, I'm trying to remember, my girlfriend sent it to me from Dubai. So in the market there where they create all of the, sorry, not Dubai, Qatar. I'm losing my mind. She goes all these different places and I can never remember. So it's actually from Qatar. So they have an incredible fiber art market there, or sort of a textile market where they make saris and all of the beautiful fabrics, like batiks and all of that. So this is some of the things that she sent to me to use in my projects. And so anyhow, I'll get on with it. So on this book, on the spine, there is a piece of spine jewelry. So this is a long almost like a bookmark on the outside of the book, and it also has some really interesting, the same piece of applique is attached to the clip that attaches this to the journal, so this whole thing comes off. It has this beautiful vintage peonies brooch that is attached to a bunch of lace and sheep's locks and more of the hand-dyed yarn that make up the pocket on the front of this journal. So you actually remove that. It's all attached on a clip, so the whole thing comes off to show you the original book spine. So this book has a hidden spine that attaches the signatures inside. Then in the front pocket, when you remove it, you can see the original book, and there are two pieces of ephemera. So this journal tag or bookmark, it has coffee dyed paper on the back, and sewn on top is a piece of sculptural felt that I made. It's a really beautiful felting technique. It's like pods. And then this is another journal card with brown paper on back. It's been stitched around, and this is some wet felting on silk that I did on top. So this is a very fiber arts centric book. The signatures are tied closed, and they have these vintage buttons on the bottom. You'll see these are really, let me get in camera here. Let me get in focus. So they're really pretty floral, and this one is like a glassine, and this like really mod looking yellow and blue kind of buttons. So they're tied. Okay, so we'll plunk these back in here like that. And this book opens, it has one of those door handle closure punches. They're metal eyelets that punch through, and I have a hand-dyed silk cocoon on the back. This is hand-dyed elastic that closes up the whole book. So you just pop this elastic up over this knob, and we open up the book. And then inside, on the first cover, is another pocket made from this beautiful ruched felted silk. So this is wool that I wet felted on top of silk, and it gets this incredible, the wool shrinks but the silk doesn't, so it gives it this really incredible texture. And then there behind here, you'll see this is actually a decoupage napkin and a vintage tea towel with roses that I've used throughout this series. And inside is a couple things. So this is a piece of ephemera from the book itself, the Irving Wallace The Prize book. It's a journal card from the book plate. So that pops in there. And then just a little Fibre Arts journal tag with some hand spun yarn sewn on top that I hand spun. And my note from the bookmaker that also just pops in there. And then just some pretty scrapbook paper, brown paper. And this is fabric paper, so this is a piece of really sweet fabric. I made a dress out of this for myself and one for my daughter, and I had some really nice big pieces left over, so I've been using it in journals. And you can write on top of this fabric. And on the other side is some decoupaged and sewn around knitting pattern paper. This is, knitting... what's the word I'm looking for? So this is essentially like a lace, it's the pattern, but it outlines all of the stitches. And for whatever reason, I can't even remember what I'm talking about. It's okay. And this is crochet blueprint. And then this is a book page from a vintage textile book. It's really nice on both sides, and this is some sewing pattern paper. And on this side is, this is original ephemera from a 70s yarn store. This is their yarn sample that they'll send out to their potential shops that wanted to buy their yarns, so they can get a look at the colors and the samples of all the yarn that they carry. And inside this little tuck, which is on top of some sewing instructional paper, is a journal card that I've made with avocado dyed paper on back, and on the front it's been sewn with some really pretty vintage rose what's the word, trim. And then this is a silver doily and some beautiful bird paper with gold, little bits of gold here and there. And then just a bit of applique paper from a sewing pattern. More sewing pattern paper. And then this is a vintage book image of a woman with this handmade garment that she's sewn. And this is really nice textured paper. It's embossed. And this is more blueprint paper. On this side is fabric paper. You could write on top of that with gel pens. And then just some stamping. And this is handmade paper decoupage. More crochet blueprint. And over here we have a pocket with some applique, vintage embroidery applique, and inside are a couple of small journal cards, vintage textile imagery, and a fabric flip on top of some coffee dyed paper. And now we're at the center of the first signature. This book has 3 signatures. And so this is gold leafed and stamped with some vintage images of rug weavings. And on this side we have a pocket that's been made from textile blueprint paper. And inside is a journal card with a Botero image on it. More crochet blueprint. And over here we have this piece of paper that's got vintage garment imagery from a vintage book. And it's a tuck that opens up. It's an envelope. So you can put something inside there, and underneath there's more imagery. And this is fabric that's been sewn directly on. This is handmade paper. It's green with little bits of metallic. And this is more fabric paper that you can write on top of. And then just some more nice paper. And this is a belly band that has a couple of journal cards inside. These are heavyweight journal cards, cardstock. the other side of that fabric paper. And then I've just stuck this piece of ephemera from the 70s, the Village Weaver. It is, again, another yarn sample, and I just thought it was a cool little piece of ephemera that you could actually write on, or you could tuck something inside of. So that's just between the signatures. The second signature has been framed in this incredible piece of handmade embroidered thick Aida cloth. So this was probably made to be a placemat. And this is a piece of crochet doily. And this is a little fabric tuck that holds on to this little card with this beautiful imagery. It's just for writing on. And this is Easter egg dyed paper that I dyed. And over here we have a piece of vintage ephemera from the Ontario Handweavers and Spinners Guild from the 70s. And on the back it's a little tuck that has a journal card inside, a heavyweight journal card. And this is more knitting pattern. This is sewing paper. And on this crochet blueprint is a pocket with a ribbon and this fun journal card of these two girls from a vintage textile book. And I've sewn some fabric on this page. This is heavyweight watercolor paper. And then a vintage image from a textile book. And a belly band with a nice big journaling card. And then some knot imagery, and this is for creating, like you see on a lot of Asian inspired clothing that have those knot clasp closures. And that paper has been coffee dyed. And here we have a piece of beautiful embroidery. This is from a sari, and this is a large pocket. And it has a couple pieces of ephemera inside. This is a journal tag and a journal card, all with sewing and embroidery related imagery. And behind it is more of the same vintage textile imagery. And those just both tuck in there. They're nice heavyweight journal cards. And this is a booklet that I've put together on my own handmade marbled paper. So the whole thing is sewn together. It's made from a base of book pages, and the whole thing flips out, and it has some interesting stickers that are sort of textile, vintage textile related. So it's extra journal space. So the whole thing is a big trifold. And this is the center of the second signature. These books are great. You can write on top of this with no problem, but it's also kind of nice to just glue things in too. If you're, you know, looking to do a visual journal or like an idea board, the center of a signature is sort of a place to put special things to inspire you. So I like to make sort of a background out of those sections of the journal. And this would also be a great book for someone who is a needle worker or a fiber or textile artist to plan their projects in, do their drawings, you know, stick your inspirations inside of. And this is a little tuck here with some sequined yarn that has been sewn on and some really pretty imagery. And then inside of it is a journal tag with some handmade this is again the felting on top of silk, and this is an image of a spool and thread on top of a knitted background, cable knitting background. And this is more beautiful imagery from a vintage textile book. And some coffee dyed sewing paper. And on this side is a pocket that has a couple of pieces of Velcro for fun and texture. And there is a journal card inside the pocket. More crochet blueprint. And on this page is a pocket, and inside there is this cool tag. So this tag is a collage tag on top of cart paper, like brown paper, and then more of the felted silk on top. And this is actually a seal. It's sealed up, but you could open it if you wanted to. It's a vintage pack of German sewing needles. So the needles are inside there. So it's just kind of a fun piece of ephemera. I just got to pop that. There we go. And then this is just a piece of silk that has been sewn on the pocket. And over here, this is silk threads from Sari Waste. And this is a sewn page and some pretty rose paper. This is heavyweight watercolor paper, so you could watercolor on top of that and make a really beautiful painting. And this is more of the Brazilian crochet blueprint paper that I've been using through this whole series. And this is sewing pattern paper. This is the paper that you cut your pattern out of. And then this is the back side of that 70s Guild newsletter folder. One of the coolest things about these newsletters is that each of them had a sample of weaving in the back. This is Easter egg paper that has some of that vintage tea towel. And this is the end of the second signature. And then between the last two signatures, I made this little booklet. So this is a really beautiful picture. It's an illustration from a vintage textile book. There's a whole series of these linear fashion illustrations, and they're really pretty. So the booklet is sewn together at the top with a zigzag stitch, and inside is all just pink inked paper. So it's just an extra little journal for you to carry along or to keep inside here. So the start of the third signature, there is a fabric flip here, and this is made from a vintage handmade embroidered piece of Aida cloth. And then this is just some collage paper, and on the back is fabric paper that you can write on. Vintage textile imagery and fiber book imagery. And on the back is an envelope. And inside of it is a large journaling card. Has illustrations for sewing a large tube pillow. And this is some beautiful embossed silver paper. And the back side has been painted. This is children's journaling paper or writing paper from those cute journals that you used to, or like notebooks from when you were a little kid and you would draw a picture up here and then you would practice your printing down here. This is handmade paper and avocado dyed paper. When you dye with avocado skins and pits, you get this beautiful pink shade. And so what I do is I make the dye pot and then I layer the paper in all different directions to get these interesting lines. And the natural stippling that you get is just from where the paper is more wet with dye. And it's a natural botanical dye. It only uses vinegar as a mordant, so it's very safe. These are paper dolls. And some stamping and more knitting pattern. And this is just a little booklet on top of some scrapbook paper with a piece of applique, and it's marbled paper that I dyed. And this is the center of the final signature. It's this leather paper that's made out of a napkin with beautiful lemons on it. And some painted acrylic surface to write on. And scrapbook paper. And this is just a vintage image from a textile book. More paper dolls. And more handmade paper and avocado. That's just the other side of those papers that I just described. And then here we have a pocket with an applique on it. And inside is this nice journal card. It's a heavyweight journal card. Pop it in there. And here we have a piece of my silk felting again with a little bit of sheep's lock on the bottom, wool. And then on this page, I've sewn this piece of beautiful starched cotton crochet. And this is more fabric paper. And then this is the back cover of the book. So I used more of that nice fabric to create a large pocket. And inside are a few surprises. Let's see if I can get the back one out here first. So this is another yarn sample from this store that operated in the 70s in Quebec, and they imported beautiful yarns, and so this is one of the sample cards. So that just tucks right in the back here. And then also there is this journal card that has been stitched and has some sari vintage embroidery on it. And then this is a large folding sort of a writing board card, a large card with dyed paper on the back, and it's been stitched around. So both of those just pop in there as kind of extra things to play with. And then there is the silk cocoon that's on the back and the elastic that goes through the eyelet. And you close up the entire book just like that. So that is the prize. That is the second to last journal in this series that I've completed. I'm sort of slowly getting through the videos. Maybe if I have time today, I'll try to shoot the last video of this series, because I'm getting started on a new video series. Also, I'm working on a whole new series of journals. I have a few more Sesame Street journals, and then I'm probably going to start into a whole new theme entirely, and maybe I will do a ephemera making video. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, please hang out, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and hit the little bell for notifications. I make videos usually at least once a week, and my channel is going to be a little bit more diverse soon, so there will be more content coming. If you want to follow me on social media, I have all the information to do that in the description box. I am on Instagram, Facebook, some other places, but I'll put it all in the description box. Otherwise, I hope you're having a great day and that the weather is starting to get nicer where you are. Everyone stay safe. Thanks.